Welcome to the Artist Interview Series. In this podcast, we feature interviews with the brightest musicians and music instructors from all around the world. Our goal is to provide meaningful conversations and insights into their creative process, to discover the inspiration behind the music, and to learn from the experiences of these talented musicians. Our host today is William Crawford, a Lilly Theater Company drum instructor and production assistant. In this episode, we spend some time talking with contemporary violinist, recording artist, and educator Jozef Nadj. So, let's jump right in and get to know this week's inspirational artist.
So, hello guys. Welcome to this Lilly Theater Company artist interview. We have a very special guest and very honored to have. He is a professor at Berklee College of Music. He is a violinist, a bassist, and also a recording artist. Please give a warm welcome to Jozef Nadj.
Hello, guys. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
So, this month is April, and it's considered the Jazz History Month. So, what do you think about like jazz overall? How this is Jazz History Month and everything?
It's great. It's great to have another month that is dedicated to music, and jazz is something that I like. I would like to, have it with me all the time, and it's part of a certain language that we all kind of, musicians use, and I like the freedom that's involved with jazz. So, and obviously it's a big part of my career. So, yeah, it's great.
That's great. Yeah, do appreciate jazz stuff. Kind of the start of the music in the early 1900s and everything. Just definitely studied a lot about jazz, and it's who can not like us the B from the B movie like jazz. It's a little joke there. Anyways, we would like to do we usually interview a lot of these great artists like you because we just like to get the inspiring music and your impact in your music career and everything, how people are inspired by your musicianship and everything. So where'd you are you from the Boston area, or where'd you grow up at?
Well, I've been in the Boston area since 2000, but I was born and I grew up in Yugoslavia. Now, that used to be a country that doesn't exist anymore. Used to have 6 republics, and all of those republics are now countries. So I'm from the part that it's now Serbia. If you know the tennis player, Novak Djokovic, he's from Serbia. He's probably the most popular Serbian guy. So, that's where I was born, and that's where I grew up. And that's where I went to school. I lived all the way until the end of my high school. And then I moved to Budapest, Hungary. I was there for 2 years. And then I kind of moved back and forth between Serbia and Hungary, and a different town in Serbia also. And then in 2000, I came to Boston to study at Berklee.
Yeah, so actually I know actually he's my current drum teacher, Marko Djordjevic.
Oh yeah,
you know him? Yeah, he's from Serbia and stuff.
Yeah,
and
he's a good
great drummer and everything. He's awesome. So speaking of Berklee, so what were you like as a student in Berklee? How did Berklee treat you?
Berklee was great. It was a great experience. Obviously, a great school, great place to, get your education. And, I was determined to get the most out of it. I had some difficulties, adjusting to, United States and all the different system, that the school system, and obviously college and some language, stuff and all of that. But I was kind of, like I said, determined and had a vision that this is something that I will pursue with 150% of myself. And now looking at those years, I'm actually proud of myself that I was able to accomplish, that, and move on, and move on through those, times where you have, your ups and downs, and things happen in life, and you're still young and inexperienced, um but here I am. So like I said, I'm proud of the times that I was at Berkeley, and now, coming back years after, and doing the teaching there is, it's just another thing, that makes me feel even better.
Yeah, Berkeley's definitely a great music college. Like I chose all the colleges to go here and stuff. I'm also Berkeley student too, for the
Yeah.
viewers out there. So yeah, it's a great college and everything, starting with music and everything. So what's your history about? I know you're multi-instrumentalist, you're bassist, violinist. What was your history about coming to those instruments and stuff?
Well, I grew up in a musician's family. My dad was, or still is, but he's retired now. He's a professional musician. Played clarinet and tenor and alto sax. My mom was a music teacher. Not a music teacher, but she was a teacher in the school, grade 1 to 4. So she was also teaching. One of the classes she was teaching was music. That's what I meant when I said music teacher. So she played a little piano and accordion. So I grew up in the house listening to music all the time. So I don't even remember if people ask me like, oh, how did you start playing music? I don't even remember how did I start playing music, because I was so young. And I do remember some of the things just by looking at photos, that they have. And then I remember going to private lessons, and taking private lessons, and then going to school. So I was going to my elementary school, let's say, in the morning, but then in the afternoon hours, I was going to the music school. And we had instrument lessons, private lessons, and then later on we had ear training and theory and all the good stuff. And then my high school years, I went to what they call a musical high school, like gymnasium, which all we had for most of the classes we had was music related. So all I did in my life was music. And playing violin was a great start for me, and obviously that's my primary instrument. I don't advertise myself as a guitar player or a bass player, but doing it, in the time where other genres were also popular, not just classical, brought me to guitar and later on bass, and like composing and all the good stuff that music has, harmony, counterpoint, and all that stuff. So I picked up the guitar. I think I was like, I don't know, maybe 13, 14 years old. And I'm self-taught on guitar, pretty much. But the left hand was kind of easy because I already had my left hand from my violin. So I just kind of figured out where the notes would go, and figuring out the different, like 6-string versus 4. The chords were kind of a little bit difficult for me because normally we don't play a lot of chords on the violin. So this was something that I had to figure it out. And then the bass is a completely different story because it's bass. So I like to call, or do you play bass, or you play bass as a guitarist? That's like kind of a two different things. Or people playing bass thinking as a guitar player. I like to think as bass as bass. If you think even in classical music, big, philharmonic orchestras, you're talking double bass sections. That's what I'm thinking, bass. So anyways, to cut the long story short, yeah, I play guitar and bass, and I've been gigging and playing in bands and stuff. So it's good. I like both. Well,
that's great that like you're very talented because you're a multi-instrumentalist, or even everybody's talented in their own way and stuff. So I'm a multi-instrumentalist too. My primary instrument is drum set, so that's my primary instrument. So I know you've been looking at the LTC Blue Theater Company website, and we're striving to teach people that like don't have access to teaching or anything like that. We try to reach out to the world and everything. So like with me, most of my life I was self-taught too. I self-taught at drums, I did a little bit of guitar. I'm still self-taught with all my other instruments, but like with drums, I think it was like during COVID that I finally had a private instructor to teach me about drums. So do you have any positive things about having a private instructor instead of being self-taught and everything? Like, is there a difference?
Absolutely, because you need a structure. Having a structure and having someone looking over your shoulder saying, hey, try this way, and just the experience that instructors have in general is huge. Because you could be fishing online, or you could be, in my day there was no internet, so I just listened to the music, and I was trying to figure out the chords. I remember one of the interesting things is that some of the bands that I listened to were playing in the guitar was, or all the band was tuned down to E flat, but I didn't know that. So I played all the songs in E flat and G flat and A flat, and you know what I mean? Instead of E, G, A, D, what they did on a guitar, I played the hard way. Because I didn't know. There was no one to tell me, like, hey, these guys are half step tuned down, So, just one of the examples, how things could be easier. And then there's like, millions of other things that you can learn. Although it is easier nowadays, as I mentioned, you can go online and find things. Now, starting with an instrument and learning something on your own nowadays with internet, I think it's still kind of questionable, But for example, from my perspective, I go online and I search, for something. I can say within 10 seconds if that's something that I want to pursue to the end of the video, or is it something that it's not what I'm looking for, But I've been doing this for so many years now, so I can tell if this is legit or not, or something that has my interest. But as a beginner, I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, I can say a lot of great things about it. I can say like positive and negative things about just internet by itself. Like when I first had a private instructor, he was from, like, I'm from Louisiana. When I was in Louisiana, I had a private instructor that lived in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. I can't go all the way up there every day of the week, so we decided to do online, which is, back then that won't even happen or anything like that. Like, we didn't probably COVID really helped us in a way to have like online lessons and stuff, especially with Berkeley. Like when I tried out for Berkeley, I tried out online and stuff instead of going all the way to Boston to try out in Berkeley. So it was a lot easier. And I'd probably say the negative part is that, like, y'all are long distance away, and if you're just so confused, it's kind of hard to like email them and all that stuff. So you gotta like, I could say I could say good and bad stuff about internet and stuff, but internet really helps you out with like just the locations and stuff. If someone's in Seattle and you're in like Asia, you can still take lessons through online.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's way more access and stuff.
Yeah, the only problem is, like I said, if you're a beginner with instruments, so if someone has to tell you how to sit by that drum set, or how to properly place your drums, you know what I mean? It's harder to do it online than if you would be right next to me and I say, oh, this is what you do, that's the
Exactly.
thing. But if you already have experience with that, you already have your posture for violin or guitar, so you know what you're doing, you can play 3-octave scales, then we can talk about, other things and move forward with, more delicate, things. But it's really hard for me to, how can I explain to a 6-year-old, you know what I mean, how to hold a violin online, I was, that's what I'm referring to,
Yeah, that definitely helps because I'm teaching live and online. I started out as a drum teacher. I still am for LTC, and yeah, it definitely helps out with because I teach mostly beginners and stuff, so it might be a little bit hard to teach and stuff. But yeah, we'll figure it out and stuff. So yeah, great talking about that. So who influenced you to play music or play your instruments, become who you are?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't remember when I started playing music. I just remember as I was growing up, I was already playing, so it was part of my life. And I mean, I have obviously was exposed to different. I listened to a lot of stuff when I was a kid, to especially jazz, because my dad was listening and playing that music in the house most of the time. But I remember, even classical music was involved. We had a great thing on, like, during Sunday, we would, because, weekdays, everyone's busy, right? So Saturdays, Sundays were the days where we kind of get together and have a nice lunch as a family. I have a younger brother, and obviously my mom and dad. So, Saturdays were sometimes busy, even with work, or, maybe we had some, performances and, as kids, and, sports, things like that. But then Sunday was the day really to kind of get together and relax. And one of the things we did was we were listening to music. And the lunch wasn't for 15 minutes or a half hour. We took our time. So we did that, probably, I don't know, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and my dad would play vinyl records, because that was the thing then, and luckily he had and still has, a good amount of them. So, he was just kind of moving the music around, and 1 week it would be Charlie Parker, next week would be, I don't know, Don't Buy Us, the third week could be, Mozart, fourth week, whatever, so that was something that I do remember, and I have very fond memories of, and I think that was important. But then later, I discovered pop and rock, because that's something that you get when you go to schools, when you start talking about music with friends, and later on, I started playing in bands, and all of that. So Mozart wasn't too cool at the time, and this is where what and how I started thinking about doing something else. I started improvising. I didn't even know what kind of I was doing, but playing classical pieces and playing the music that like this, so it's like, oh, this is how you're going to be playing it, and you can do it exactly as it is, or it's wrong. And that was the thing that I was like, okay, so what if I add this or delete that, or and then I, got deeper into blues and jazz and rock. My high school days, I was heavily into rock, and then later, I went back to, or got deeper into jazz, because I wasn't just listening. I started, playing it more, and kind of getting deeper into just the understanding of jazz as an art form. Like I said, it's a little bit different than other, other stuff. So yeah, and then I applied for Berklee, and I wanted to come to Boston and learn jazz. That was the thing, and all my my degree is at Berklee was professional music, but structured like performance, in performance way of towards jazz. So all my classes were, 80% the classes that I took were like improv related and jazz related and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's actually cool, because I'm majoring in pro music, and
oh, great. Yeah,
my concentration is performance. So
there you go.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was heavily into rock and like metal. My dad kept on playing it when I was a little kid and stuff, and then I discovered jazz like 7th grade, something like that. And there was a place called Tiburtina's in New Orleans, very popular place. And I had the youth workshop over there, and they teaching us just what a swing was and stuff. So I was like, oh, cool. Then I went to high school and did the jazz band for 4 years, and never listened to jazz, never liked jazz, just wanted to play it, but I didn't really like it and stuff. And then when COVID hit, my band director wanted, that was like part of our assignment, was to listen to a jazz song and like write down like how it was and everything. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Because my I don't know if you know Donald Harrison Jr., great saxophone player.
Mm-hmm.
He went to Berklee, but like in sophomore year, I did the Tiburtina's internship program, and it was a lot of jazz. And he was kept on talking about Miles Davis. I'm like, who is that guy? So later on, I got to listen to Miles Davis music. I was like, oh, okay, he's like the biggest jazz trumpet player ever. So, and yeah, and ever since I got to Berklee, like I think Berklee is just that college where like there's so many different people and different cultures around that they get you to listen to all types of music, and like all my classes are different music. Like I think I'm taking rock development, taking world percussion, which is we study like Indian and African rhythms, and I'm taking fusion next semester. So I'm getting into like all kinds of music and stuff. So it's great to be more aware with different music and everything, and definitely appreciate
by the
it.
end of your studies, you'll probably figure out that it's all very related,
Well, yeah, it helps you out with what you do and everything, how to become you as a musician and everything.
Yeah, I think the first jazz musician that ever lived was Bach. He just didn't know, or we didn't know, or they didn't know that was jazz. But that's I'm 100% positive that that's the first written music that was put in the way that he did. That was jazz music. That's Bach.
Yeah, I didn't really notice that, because like back then everybody's saying it's classical, it's classical, it's got to be classical. They didn't know about jazz or blues until like later on and stuff. So,
well, I mean,
yeah.
classical obviously has a big part of it for everything because that's the foundation. And I'm very grateful that I had the classical background, you know, for all those years that I played classical, you know, because it really helped me when I left, you know, that world. It really helped me to not just for like performance wise, but understanding of music and harmony and how music developed from Bach to Miles Davis, as you mentioned, or you know, Charlie Parker, and then even later on, you know, all the different genres that we have in the 20th century, you know. But you know, classical would be the foundation for all of that. And as I mentioned, once you get, you know, you have to start the cycle, right? You know, like the circle of fifths, you know, you start it, and as you go away, and it kind of, you know, gets into the gray area, as I call it, you know, A flat, D flat, G flat, right? But then slowly goes back to like A, D, and G, and then you're back where you were, you know. So it's a nice cycle, you know. Exploring never ends as long as you are interested in exploring, you know. But as you're digging deeper into different styles and different type of music and different genres and all that, the more you figure it out, it's like, oh yeah, this is this, and you know, this is similar to that, and this might be, you know, coming from this type of music. And you know, it's like playing in a band, you know, let's say cover band. The more songs you know, the more they sound alike. You know, eventually you stop even practicing all those songs because they end up having the same progression, you know. You know, 1-6-4-5, or you know, 1-4-5, or 1-4, you know, 5-6, or whatever it is. The progression is the same. It's just the melody is could be different, or you know, should be different. Let's say that.
You know, no copyrights or anything like that. But yeah, it gets yeah, it has its different patterns and stuff, and yeah, that's just a lot of music. They can all be alike and everything because they have everybody has their own influence by someone and stuff. So it's,
yes, absolutely, yes.
That's music right there. All right, so before you went to Berkeley, is there like so junior high and high school when you were there, was there did they focus on music or anything like that? Were there like did you have any music access to when you were in junior high and high school?
Yes, yeah. Like I said, I was going to a musical, you know, kind of high school specified specifically for, you know, people who are interested in pursuing music as a career. And they had two different categories. One of the categories was instrumentalist, so you could play an instrument, and the other category was theoretical, so you could be, you know, doing more, you know, like harmony and counterpoint and music theory, you know, theory related, you know, classes. And obviously that was for 4 years. So right after elementary school. So 9 to what grades? 9 to 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but this is the time where I played classical heavily, and this is probably the time where I practiced the most. And I always tell my students that between age of 13, 14, and 20 is probably your best time to practice, because you don't have to worry about anything else. Everything else is provided. You know, housing, food, all that stuff is there. You don't have to worry about that. So, you know, and yeah, so I was playing in orchestras. I was part of like a youth philharmonic orchestra. We even traveled. We had some tours in Europe traveled to Romania, different parts of Yugoslavia at the time. I went to Hungary. So, you know, it was fun. But at the time, as I mentioned, I was exploring different types of, you know, music. And rock was really popular at the time. So that caught my attention. And this is where I started playing guitar also. So I started, you know, playing in bands at just about the same time when I was like 15, 16 years old. You know, with my high school friends, and I lived in a town with 150,000 people. So it wasn't small, but it wasn't, you know, as big. So we kind of knew our ways, and luckily we had even venues, you know, several venues to play at. So, and that was cool, you know. That was a time when I really thought that this could be something I want to do, you know. And I still, you know, after all these years and thousands of shows that I did in my life, I really enjoy playing. I have this urge to think about performing all the time, you know, and creating different, you know, ideas for every performance, like, you know, from set list to even dress codes. You know, it's kind of I don't know, something that really I connect with, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, with yeah, connecting, and probably say like music is therapy. That's why they have music therapy and all that stuff, and it's just music's great in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate. I consider myself very fortunate to be doing what I do. You know, I know and I'm aware that I really worked hard to be where I'm at now. Not that I'm the greatest musician of all times. That doesn't exist. You know. But to make, you know, music for living is a great feeling. You know. And then it's another great feeling to pass on the information to other musicians who want to learn. You know.
Yeah,
so
that's such a great thing.
I don't have a feeling of how can I say this so it doesn't sound, you know, too aggressive. I don't have a feeling of going to work. You know what I mean? I have every time I go to work, I go to have fun. You know, and even learn more, because, you know, music is a never-ending thing, at least when it comes to learning. There's always something that you can learn, you know, whether it's new or you know, relatively new or different, you know. So sometimes I go into the class and kids are playing, and I was like, wow, what was that? Play it again. You know. So I mean, how beautiful is that, right?
Yeah, that's really great words. Just you don't have to work. It's
no, I
enjoy
my work. Yeah.
You have fun as a living. That's what I'm trying to do. Like that my main thing to do is music and everything, and play my instrument and want to go tour and everything. And I'll probably say like work is you do something that you don't want to do, but it can also it's
I did that too, unfortunately.
It's considered work, but it's fun and stuff. It's
yeah,
once you have fun for money. That's it.
Yeah, once you do stuff that you don't like, you start appreciating this even more. You know what I mean?
That's great. So yeah. Let's see. So you did a master class. Lily was telling me about electrifying, like it sounded like you were electrifying instruments, like maybe put like a clarinet and distortion and stuff like that. So Lily was interested in, like, she's a clarinet player and she's trying to change her sound to her instrument. So you want to talk a little bit about your master class and stuff, what you did?
Well, my masterclass was primarily towards string instruments.
Yeah.
But obviously in 2023, we can do a lot of different stuff with technology. So, you know, as we already mentioned, internet. In the other hand, we have all this devices and pedals and all the computers, right? That they can help nurture our ideas, is how I like to think about it. Because I play differently when I use different equipment, you know. So if I use a delay, I play a little bit different. If I use a distortion, I'm going to play a little bit differently. If I use, you know, wah-wah pedal, then I play differently. So it's still my playing, but it opens up different and more doors in my playing, you know. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of it opens up my creative side even more. And so my masterclass is about how to amplify those instruments, you know, how to put those instruments in order to be working with like an amplifier, or, you know, because I mean the easiest part, well, I should say not the easiest, but the most popular way of doing things would be you know, you mic something, you put a mic on clarinet, you put a mic on whatever, saxophone, you put a mic on violin, and then you're all set. But that's not what we do at smaller gigs or venues, and you know, that's more like studio work where you have, you know, the microphones available that are very expensive, you know, all those things. So that's what we talk about, you know, what pickups to use and how to amplify that, and then what pedals to use for certain instruments and how they work with an instruments, you know. And it just creates this completely different sound, you know. You would think it's a guitar, but it's actually not. You know. So that's part of what we do, or what I kind of you know, created to present to students, because there's always questions, you know, and my job is to answer questions to the best of my knowledge at a given moment, you know. So I'm trying to be on top of the game and say, oh, you know, Boss just came out with this new overdrive pedal or whatever, you know, give it a shot. It might work for what you need, you know. Or I can say, hey, that pedal is maybe not good for that. Try, you know, different one. But I'm always trying to have some sort of knowledge and keep my knowledge on top of the game, so I can have suggestions when the time comes, you know, when students are asking questions, you know.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the master class. Maybe if you have one, I can attend to it and stuff. I'm definitely very interested in just electronics and everything that just comes with music production and everything. So it's,
yeah, of course, yeah,
that's great. So what's it like with your music industry, like?
Well, what can I tell you? I don't. The music industry is changing. I think from day to day, even if not, you know, hour by the hour or minute by minute. So, you know, I have learned and gained experience doing things one way, and then you wake up the next morning and then everything is kind of the other way, you know. And I have mixed emotions again with the technology. So, you know, things as good as they are, sometimes they work in a way that it could be a disadvantage. You know, using computer and like a DAW, right, like a digital audio workstation, could be a great skill and to, you know, produce a record, for example. You know, back in the day, you know, we didn't have that. You had to go to a studio, right, and then do that in the studio, and you would have to have a producer and an engineer to help you with all that. Now you can kind of do that all on your own, which is great. What I'm trying to say is the quality of the music that you're going to do the same as you if you would be hiring someone who's a professional in that field, you know. And there's so many different examples of the contemporary music where it's kind of turning to, and what's the, you know, from you know, just these streaming platforms, you know, is that good or bad for us? Is it good or bad for the listeners? You know, who benefits the most out of these things? You know, there's so many different questions that I don't even have answers to that. You know, I think time will tell if this is a good time or a bad time, or if we did something that we were not supposed to be doing, or if something was just great, you know. You know, I don't know. I mean, I'm not too deeply into I'm not following, you know, the industry day by day, how things develop. I'm just kind of you know, holding back and trying to think about things that make my life happy, you know, and if I'm happy, then I can be friendly, and I can, you know, transcend that happiness to someone else, you know. But music is something that is around us all the time, right? So we're kind of digesting music second by second. Now we have an option to pick and choose what do we digest, right? I mean, we have restaurants and foods all over the country and all over the world, but we pick what we eat, you know. So, but then there's another thing, you know, if you have several of the same restaurants that are offering the same thing, then it's kind of hard to pick. So, you know, I'm not trying to be too smart here or whatever, but we'll see. Time will tell. You know, if this is if the time that we'll live in now is this is good time, or it could be challenging times. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, when you were saying about music's very, very just you hear music everywhere. Like if you drive your car, you put music on. If you go to the store and shop, you hear music. If you go to a restaurant, you hear music. If you go on the city, you hear music. Like pretty much everywhere you go.
Correct. Yeah.
Most of the time, you hear music and stuff. So it's a very that's what I pick up on and everything. Just music's huge.
Yeah, but when you go to a shopping mall, right, and you're listening to the music that's on the speaker, you have no control of that music, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying by the restaurants. You know, you don't control the menu, you know. So that's why I said there's a different way, different things for musicians and consumers. You know, when I listen to music, I listen to music very different way than my neighbor is listening, who is a painter. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that my way is good or bad or his. You know, I'm just saying we listen to the same piece of music different way. You know?
Yeah, that was great stuff. So what was it like playing clubs in Boston?
Boston is a great city. It really is. Because I've played most of the clubs throughout the years. Obviously not all, because, you know, you have new venues and you have some venues closing down and whatnot. But what I like about Boston is that you have an option to go and listen to music almost every night of the week, and different types of music. You know what I mean? So you and I can go and see a classical piece, right? A famous violinist could be playing at the symphony hall. The same night, you probably have 50 other bands playing somewhere else. From jazz to funk to rock to reggae to you name it. You know? And it's quality music. So it very rarely happened for all these years that I'm living here that I walk into a, you know, could be even like a dive bar, right? And I walk in and I'm saying to myself, wow, yeah, I mean, these guys are really not doing a great job. You know, that rarely happens. You know, to the point where I can't even remember a situation on top of my head right now. You know, so that's what I like about it. You know, and I think the scene has changed. Obviously, as we mentioned, the music industry changed. So you know, back in the 50s and 60s, you had way more jazz clubs than you have now. But we still have some places where you can play jazz, you know, and unfortunately, I think jazz is kind of in decline as far as popularity. But it wasn't, jazz never was the most popular music. I think the heyday was maybe in the 20s and 30s, you know, swing time. So, you know, considering that, it's fine. We don't need 50 jazz clubs in Boston, but we need few to keep the scene alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When I got to Boston, it was 2021. It was right after everybody was in lockdown. Everything was closed, and it was just like nothing was open and stuff. And I was like, okay. So I just went to Berkeley and stuff, and just slowly got back to normal until, like, I probably say like this past year, that was like the most normal I've ever seen in Boston. Like, I go to Cambridge all the time, and like every club packed with bands, packed with people and everything. I didn't see that when I got here 2 years ago and stuff. So it definitely, Boston's getting back to its normal spot. I know all the other years, but yeah, COVID shut everything down, and I got here at the worst time, but it got back to where it should be.
It's slowly getting back. Yeah, slowly getting back. And you know, the COVID times were COVID times. We all know how that went. But fortunately, it's in the past.
Yeah.
You know, so let's just look forward, and hopefully, yeah, things are moving in a good direction. MGM Music Hall just opened up down on Lansdowne Street.
Yeah,
so,
I went there.
So that's a new spot, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Boston's a fantastic city, and I came from New Orleans, was another huge music city and stuff, and yeah, both great cities and stuff. So yeah, you recorded a few albums, and you want to talk a little bit about about your albums and your own music and stuff?
Sure. Yes, I have 3 records. I've played on several others, just as a sideman and as a guest artist. But my 3 records would be Digital World. I released that in 2009, which is combination of a little bit of everything, from pop, rock to even some jazz. At the time, I was kind of heavily influenced with, you know, people like Jean-Luc Ponty. And then in 2016, I released a straightforward jazz record called Dark Green Yet Blue. And that's under Arabesque Records. The first one was released under Canadian label MD Scoring. So, and then the second one is Arabesque Records. And the third one is a COVID record. So I did everything online for that record. Yeah, when I realized that COVID is not going to go away within, you know, a day or 2 or weeks or months or whatever, then I said to myself, okay, you know, this is a good time for me to start working on a new record. And I did. So I contacted the musicians that I thought would be a good fit for what I had in mind. And I started working on that just about in like April, I'm going to say April of 2020. And it was done by the end of 2020. And the record is just called 2021. You know, I just kind of wanted to give that name because I was hoping that 2021 will a little bit be better than 2020, you know, in hope that this coming year will bring us more happiness rather than more whatever we had in 2020. Because everybody had different emotions, you know, during COVID time. And then actually I have the record right here. So that's the cover for it. The song names are also interesting, COVID related. Starts with Fantastic Plastic, meaning, you know, plastic as a form of something that we consume all day, every day. That it's, you know, presented to us in different ways. We have Clown Parade, Cabin Fever, right? So the lockdown. LOL, but it's actually not just LOL, but it's called Labor of Love. You know, going back to let me do what I love to do, you know. Optimistic is another song, obviously, just optimistic being, you know, going back to happiness. Next song is Light That Shines. You know, when you sit in a room and there's like a little window right there, and then you like, oh, okay, you know, I'd like to see that light, you know, from a different angle, you know. And then number 7 is called Ludilo. That's craziness in Serbian. Again, you know, something that happened to us with COVID. And then I put the back in 2018, I played a show in Portland, Maine, and we played the Jimi Hendrix tune Little Wing. So I recorded that
song.
Yeah, I recorded that live, and I put it on the record as a you know, closing song. So, you know, I don't know the exact amount of number of musicians that played on this record, but it's really a good amount of number. Over 10 easy. And then the other thing is, once I put everything together, so I would have ideas and I would send those ideas to the people that, you know, that I had in mind, and they recorded their parts in their home, or studio, right? Because they didn't have anywhere else to go, just like me, right? And so they would send those ideas back, and then I would put the picture together. So it was a learning curve for me to use the computer in a different way. I have gained more experience and more knowledge using the DAW, digital audio workstations, and another thing that I never did before was mixing. So I learned how to mix, how to put things together and how to use EQs, and so that was really, really an interesting thing, and I'm almost kind of thankful that COVID allowed me to do that. I know that this sounds crazy, right? But if COVID didn't happen, I'm not sure if this would be my hands today, So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just crazy, or maybe I'm just too deeply into what I do. But I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to work on this during those times,
Yeah, it's this I might be crazy too, but there's some positive and negative things about COVID and stuff. Yeah, of course we all know about the negative things, but like, yeah, positive, like I've heard so many records that came out during COVID and stuff, because a lot of musicians, they couldn't tour, everybody was all busy, like the whole world.
Everyone was locked in.
The whole world was busy before COVID and stuff, and COVID just took it all away. Nobody's busy. There's no, like, it was like an actual, like, nobody was busy. Everybody was home doing nothing, and you can't get out or anything like that. So everybody had that mindset of trying to keep themselves busy and stuff. At least I have that. Is that they're like, all right, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And people started being productive and stuff and everything, instead of just trying to find something to do while COVID's happening, while not doing anything.
I spent hours and hours in the room right next to me. I made that room as a studio, and I would get here sometimes at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I would go home at like 3 a.m. But in the other hand, I'm glad those days are over. So we, went back to normal, being human beings, shaking hands, talking to each other with no masks and all of that, because that's who we are. We're human beings. We need social life. We need interactions. We need, you know what I mean? But like I said, I just kind of appreciate the time that I had to do this, and this is, my pandemic, baby, as they call it, or whatever, pandemic dog, right? That was a thing at some point. Oh, he's a pandemic dog, like you're walking down the street and you see someone with a dog, like, hey, he's a pandemic dog,
That's awesome. All right, that's all good stuff. So for your first song that we're going to use for the video, would you want to talk a little bit about it before we show it to the viewers?
Sure, yeah. So it's going to be the opener from the record, Fantastic Plastic. And we shot the video late 2020, yeah. So before it was released, obviously. And we shot a video throughout Boston and the area. So I wanted to, pick up the city where, I spent most of my life. So you can see, all different places. Revere Beach is in the video. Downtown Boston is in the video. Some of the scenes from North Shore cities and towns also in there. It's a good funky tune. A good friend of mine who is also a Berklee graduate. He graduated even before me. His name is Vasil Hajimanov. He played keys on this record. So it's another thing that, you know, I kind of picked people where I thought they would be great. And he's great with like funk and stuff. So it was a great collaboration with him. And it was a great thing to put, you know, him in the record and then put Boston in the video, because, you know, he also lived certain time here. So you know, it's all good stuff. I'm really proud of this record, and I hope you're gonna like the video.
Yeah.
And the song too.
Well, we're going to shift to the video and hope you all enjoy.
Cool.
And we're back. That was an awesome tune. Get to show around Boston and playing the fiddle, and you were playing the bass and the guitar in the record too. And just get to show what Boston is like and everything, and definitely showing the culture and everything. So great record, great song and everything. Let's shift gears to your teaching. So you were a teacher at you are teaching at Berklee College of Music. So what's it like being a professor here?
Oh, it's great. It's great from several standpoints. I don't even know how to describe the honor and responsibility at the same time. And I mentioned the responsibility because I feel responsible to educate these students and give my 120% so they can pursue their goals and careers, and obviously it is an honor because, let's just, face it and say it, Berklee's the best school in the world for music. There are other great schools, but I think Berklee is the greatest. So, being on a faculty list is really, special feeling, especially because it's kind of, remember I talked about that circle, right?
Yeah.
So me coming to Boston as an international student, as coming from a smaller country, getting to the States, getting to a big city, getting to a different school system, and then going through all of that, right? And then graduating, and then I was teaching, different places meanwhile, and, doing the giggings and all that stuff. And then I started teaching at Berklee. So that's the circle that I was talking about that kind of, completes with that. So it's great. I'm always looking forward to hear more talent. It happens from room to room, even just walking down the hallway, not even teaching, just listening to what's happening in those rooms is just magnificent, so it's great.
Yeah, it's also great being a student here, and we kind of have the same experiences, seeing all seeing all the like the faculty and the students just wailing in on their instruments and stuff, and just going to a school where everybody's great here and stuff. It's just everybody's kind of like great thing about probably social wise, like I always want to be a musician, but I was always in public schools where I didn't really have a lot of friends that were musicians. But now I'm like here and everybody wants to do what I want to do. So we have that more common thing, and it's great.
It's a great place to be, not only to study, but to hang, right? Mm-hmm. With, as you said, with the people who are kind of similar minded and have the same interest or similar interest. And this is just a great place, to be for everyone. Like I said, even as a, now I'm looking from the other side, right? As a faculty, and when I'm working with students, sometimes I'm like, okay, can you play that again, please? You know what I mean? Because it was great. So it's, it's an amazing, generally speaking, learning experience for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's awesome to be here. So what are some of your classes you teach?
I teach in two different departments. So I teach in the string department. Those are labs and private instruction. And I teach in the ensemble department. And I teach several ensembles, from mixed bop to jazz, to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, to mixed styles. Yeah, so 4 different types of ensembles.
Yeah, I'm taking mixed styles with Lil John Roberts. You know him?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so all the
He's
viewers
a great
out
drummer,
there.
yeah.
Lil Jon, he played with Janet Jackson Experience for like the past 25 years, and he played with Stevie Wonder. He's actually going to New Orleans this Saturday. He's playing at a private event and stuff, but he just went to NAMM like a few days ago and stuff. He's up there.
Yeah. I know Lil Jon. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's a great drummer. What do you focus mainly with teaching your students?
That's a great question. Well, musically speaking, it's one thing. But there's also this part where you have to be aware of that we are still human beings, right? Culture is another important part of that. History is also another part of that. So I'm trying to combine all of these things into my teaching, where I'm going to say, well, maybe you should go back to, I don't know, Mendelssohn and listen to, those concertos or symphonies, right? And then you should go back and listen to Miles Davis, or you should listen to Charlie Parker and see how that relates to each other, And then sometimes we just talk about life, which I think is also important. I'm not going to, spend an hour talking about, how nice it is to be outside and riding your bike. But if the topic gets to a certain off music, topic, then we try to talk about things, and I'm always open to any questions or ideas, because like I said, there's a lot of talent in the rooms, so overall, there's all kinds of things happening, in these classes. I like to keep it to the music part, because that's the reason the students are there. But if it happens to go off topic to a certain way, I'm happy to, kind of follow up and talk about life experiences as well. Because I think that's important, Being a great musician is one thing, but being a great person is another thing, completely different thing. Being a healthy person is also another thing, also important. Have this awareness of what's out there, and we know that today's world is a little bit different, more challenges, more opportunities, more disappointments. This is all when I say life. So I have students coming in disappointed if they're, it could be a ratings audition, or disappointed because they didn't get the job that they applied for. Or disappointed because they couldn't play what they practiced last night. So it sounded great last night in their, dorm room, but they're coming into ensemble and it just doesn't sound as they think they would. So, these are all challenges. These are life challenges, life situations that happens to everyone. You, me, people outside, everyone, So yeah, that, and then, music specifically, I like to talk about everything. One of the eras that or one of the topics that I really like to cover would be obviously jazz and improv, right? So, I teach how to start improvising, how to approach music from a different angle, how to listen to the music differently, like, oh, listen to that bass line. Learn that bass line on fiddle. I was like, why would I learn a bass line? Because it's going to help you understand the harmony, So going back to, the instructor question that we had before, it's always a great thing to have someone looking over and saying, oh no, dude, try this. That's what you're doing is great, but try it this way. Maybe you're going to have two options for the same thing. Maybe your comfort zone will be larger,
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing is when you have things that you normally do, right? Whether it's going to be life related or work related or studies related or college, whatever. But when it comes to you, we all have our comfort zones, and then we have to push that, make it big, right? So you're not only comfortable playing in one key, for example, right? Because we have 12, and stuff like that, It's always great to hear their feedback, seeing them week 1 or week 2 of the semester, and then seeing them the last week of the semester. And then they improvise, they play something. I was like, okay, now did you believe me when I told you that to play that bass line on the fiddle, right? You were looking at me differently when I asked you to do that. But now you understand the approach. Once you understand the approach, you can apply that approach into your playing. Once you're applying that approach to your playing many and many, many, many more times, you are expanding your comfort zone. In other words, you become a better improviser. You become a better musician. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say like probably actually when I first started playing drums, I had a instructor that was teaching me and stuff, and I don't know, I had kind of bad experience with private instructors because I remember I was an 8-year-old little kid just starting to play drums, and the guy was like, play me a paradiddle on the practice pad. I had no clue what a paradiddle was, and he said right, left, right, right, and I was like, it was like my mind was just exploded and stuff, and I was this little bratty kid that was crying, saying like, I don't want to take this anymore. And then my dad listened to me and cut that off, and then that's when I started self-teaching myself. And then later on, it took me a while to like want to go back because I think it was another time, like a lot of private instructors want to push you and try to like they put so much work on you and stuff, and I had a lot of that experience, and I kind of realized over the years like that's kind of like if you want to get better at what you do, try to probably say like when I'm a private instructor and stuff, I don't want to give, I know other people have other lives to do too, so I try not to give so much stuff or like not expect you to do so much and stuff like that because you got other things going on in your life, but try to do some to become better and stuff. So that's what my opinion as like a teacher's wise and everything. So that was
well,
like
sometimes you have to recognize how much work and what level these students are, because it's hard to get from 1 to 50, so but going from 1 to 5 is easier, right? And then 5 to 10, and then 10 to 15, and 15 to 20, or even 1 to 2 sometimes, and then sometimes you get to 10, but you have to push it back to 7, and then slowly, slowly get to your desired idea or topic, or subject, call it however you want it, but we have a desired goal at the beginning of the semester, and we have execution of those goals by the end of the semester. Sometimes the execution is not 100%. Sometimes it is 100%. We're trying to get to that 100% every time, but again, we're human beings, so sometimes things get in the way for whatever reason, and then we don't deliver the 100%. But we always try, and then putting those ideas in work and saying, okay, try this for this week, and maybe we'll go into that next week, and then maybe next week we'll do something third, and then week 4 we kind of combine all the 3 that we worked on. So it's really a systematic way of putting things together. It's like putting a puzzle together, right? And sometimes you put a puzzle together within 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes you an hour, and sometimes you would put a large piece together quickly, because you would recognize one part of the picture that you see, but then the other one could be a little blurrier, or I don't know, darker with similar colors, so it's hard to identify those. So taking the time, taking the correct, well, not correct maybe, but taking the amount of information that you want to provide and taking the feedback from your student will give you results. You know what I mean? That's what I found. I'm not going to push you do 100 push-ups at your first lesson, but I'm going to ask you for 5 and then see if you can do 5. Maybe we can start with 6 next week or 7 or whatever. But by the end of the semester, I'd like you to be comfortable within 50,
Yeah, definitely. Really good strategy and everything. So do you think we as educators and musicians could do more to support people that don't really have access to learn a musical instrument?
Absolutely. I think we, as educators, as performers, as people who are involved with arts in general, I think music is the like I said, the most beautiful thing that exists out there. Some people may have a different opinion, but we all agree that music is something that we all need. And giving back to communities, finding ways to give back to communities, is one of the ways that we, talking, creating workshops, creating classes, even outside of colleges and institutions where we work, right? Going into different schools and talk about music, even that, even though those kids will probably never or could never learn an instrument or play an instrument, but to have a option for them to present an opportunity for them, I think it's an important thing. You know what I mean? Like getting it out there and talking about it and presenting this as an opportunity, as something they could pursue later in their life. I think that would be great. And I'm not saying that we're not doing it. We're all doing the best we can, right? Or the best that we think we can. But, as they say, there's always room for more. There are different programs available throughout the state that we can look into, offer different, reaching out to say, hey, I'm doing this. Do you have a certain amount of students that will be interested in something like this? And then, you knock on doors and say, hey, let's do this, let's do that. A lot of it is unfortunately related to financial barriers, because we all have to pay our bills at by the end of the day. But we also have to remember that it's not always about the money. We need money. Yes, we do. It's clear, right? But not everything is related to money. There's things that money can buy and things that money cannot buy. And I think we should start focusing on the other part, things that money cannot buy. For example, I had just this past Saturday, I had a workshop with 100 string players that came from Virginia. Last week. And they were interested in more contemporary styles, so they were all classically trained and good players, obviously. So we, worked on like a rock song, and I played for them a little bit. When those 100 kids started playing, and I started playing with them, and the room was kind of breathing music. You know what I mean? The entire place was like, I don't know, had this special energy going on. That's what I'm talking about. That's something that money cannot buy. And in this situation, I don't care if I'm going to get paid for that or not. You know what I mean? It's not about that. It's about that moment when we started playing together. And the moment where the workshop was about 2.5 hours. So the moment where they entered the room and the moment they left the room, the feeling that they had, that's what I'm talking about.
That's great words right there. And yeah, definitely music can be, it's anywhere. And yeah, very, very important stuff. So let's go to your next song. If you want to talk a little bit about your next song.
Sure. Why don't we do Light That Shines? That's number 6 on the record. And there's no violin on this record. That's the reason I picked it. So I play guitar. I have 2 faculty members, Berklee faculty members on this record. Bruce Gertz is playing bass, and Vlada Milenkovic, also from Serbia, plays melodica on this record. So very nice tune in a way that I wanted to do something simpler, so it's not too complicated, has a nice melody, and has this light that shines that we kind of were hoping to get, in the time where we were in.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing our words for your song, and hope you enjoy this video. And we're back. Yeah, I love the song. Sound like you had the same chord progression throughout the song and soloing. Great solos from different people and everything. Just love the nice groove in the song and everything, different textures and everything. So another wonderful song from the legend Jozef.
Yeah, well, the entire record is more like funky and progressive and even rock. I have some stuff that it's more rocky, but this one is more like a pop song with nice melody, with like great melodic solo and kind of jazzier feel to it.
So yeah, speaking of that, for all the viewers out there, where can we find your music?
Just about any platform. So pick your favorite platform: Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Amazon Music. Just search my name and it's going to be there.
Yep. Good stuff. All right, well, moving on. So what have you been playing music this past year?
Lots of different places. I haven't done a lot of traveling. Before COVID, I used to do about 150, 160 shows a year, which was kind of a lot. So I, brought it down to whatever the number is, but I significantly brought it down. So I'm not doing a lot of traveling. I do New England shows. I may do some traveling in the summer and maybe in the fall. I may go to Europe and do some shows there. We'll see what happens. I'm kind of in the process of doing that. So it's more, local gigs, playing with friends most of the time, and just keep the thing going. That's important. Having your phone ringing is an important thing. If you're interested in performing, that's, like I said, performing is something that I still really enjoy. So
Yeah, that's good stuff. So what's your vision for the rest of 2023 or your future?
Hey, hopefully, have a good health, and then everything comes from there. I know it's kind of a cliche, but that's what it is. If you're healthy, you can think. If you think, you can create. If you can create, you can deliver. So, maybe another record. I don't know. I started a new or put together a new group lineup. We did a few shows. I have some shows down the road. I'll be playing at Berkeley, I believe July 17th.
I'll be home.
Yeah. That was one of the dates that they could offer. So I'm trying to maybe put something together, maybe a new record. We'll see. I'm just going to kind of take my time. I have a lot of teaching during the summer because I do 12-week and I teach also the 5-week program as well. And we'll see what happens, but like I said, being healthy, keeping things going, and we'll see,
Yeah, it's always like I'm trying to remember. Don't always see where it's at and everything. Like just trying to remember, my grandfather told me that like you always find out what's going on. Like you don't try to plan. You can plan for the future, but
well, you can,
you
can definitely have some ideas of what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and things like that. But life takes funky curves, sometimes. So, but we'll learn to deal with that,
All right. Yeah. If you well, if you could perform with anyone living or not living, who would you perform with, and why?
Oh, this is a hard question. I don't know. There's way too many people. Way too many people to even think about. Because I like different genres, you know. I like music as it appears to us, you know. So I like way too many musicians to mention. Maybe one that is kind of significant. Maybe Miles Davis, since we mentioned him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think he was one of like the first big musicians that went to Berkeley. I think he went to Berkeley for a little bit, and then he started off playing jazz and everything.
I don't know if he went to Berkeley, but anyways,
I don't know.
Yeah, he's
he's
someone that really has a big mark on the music scene in the 20th century. So maybe if I need to mention one person, maybe it would be him. You know, I played with I was fortunate enough to play with a good amount of musicians that are like, you know, even influenced me. But Miles would be one that I would kind of, if I could go back, I would pick Miles.
That's definitely a great choice. Great trumpet player. Blue and Green. Well, no, it's kind of blue. That album.
Kind of blue, yeah.
That album's so good. Yeah. So all the viewers out there, two things. Go see Jozef July 17th at Berkeley, and go listen to Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. Great record.
I agree to both.
All right, so last question. So what are some parting words you want to have our listeners with? Like, what are some of your words you want us to leave us with and everything?
Be kind. Be gentle. Help others any way you can. Don't be selfish. Practice. Practice more. And then practice more.
That's great words of wisdom. But Jozef, thank you so much for being part of this interview. It was nice interviewing you and everything. Just have an honor to have Berkeley professor and wonderful musician that has been to the music industry for years and stuff, and I can learn from it since I'm about to start my own music career and stuff. So thank you. You're an inspiring person, incredible musician, and doing so many great things. So thank you so much, and I hope all the viewers, if you'd like to book a lesson with Lily Theater Company, go to www.lilytheatercompany.org, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, man.